fish at the church.
Yeah, thanks very much. That was, God, I've got, it must be probably 12 years since I caught my personal best, because I've never done anything for particularly looking for big fish. So it could be 12 years ago, and if you asked me the precise weight of my one before then, I think it was 36.12. I honestly have no idea. So yeah, it was. I didn't even go down there for a personal best. It was just the fact that Kevin had said you must come down and do a bit of fishing, and to be honest, I wasn't really bothered. You know, I enjoy what I do. I don't have anything to prove as far as I'm concerned. My mate Duff Batty, he's a PR man for a lot of the big groups. I thought, you know what, that'd be really nice to take my mate down there. He can meet one of his heroes as Kevin Nash. We can have a nice bit of fishing. He might catch a good fish. It'll be quiet. Be well away from anybody. I thought, that's a nice place to take my mate. And then I caught that monster, so really it was fantastic.
I'll put you on the spot now. If someone tapped you on the shoulder tomorrow and said, Julian, you can go carp fishing whenever you want still, but you can only use one boilie and one boilie only. I don't know if you can answer this question.
Yeah, of course. It'd have to be something that I have caught. I mean, I would use, if I could only use one boilie for the rest of my life, and remember the boilies, then it would be a little yellow pineapple pop-up, which I could trim or use as a bottom bait or use as a zig. That's the hard and fast answer. The reality is I use Nutribait's trigger eyes with the added GLME. That's what I use. I don't always use it all the time, but I might chop it up and mix it with something else. I might fish something over the top of it. But to me, that's the bait that I've got confidence in. But I'm not here going, it's the best bait ever, it's better than B5, it's better than Monster Pursue, it's better than the Cell, because that's rubbish. That's what I use and what I'm confident in, and that's my starting point on any water. I'll take that now.
Who is your biggest inspiration?
My biggest inspiration I think was Kevin Maddox. Kevin Maddox was the man that when I read his books when I was a kid, you know, although I collect books, I'm not a book collector, so my books have got mud from waters I've fished. So when I was a kid growing up, you were a Maddoxy man or you were a Hutchie man. Now I was the methodical Maddoxy man. It was, everything was technical, there was a reason for everything, whereas Rod's crew was like, you know, just take it easy and naturally. I had to work hard at my fishing, and the methodical approach worked for me. So my initial hero in fishing was Kevin Maddox, and then it was, you know, Kevin is still my hero because I watched what he did and how he, you know, he was the man, and he still is catching a lot of carp. And then there's people I fish with like Andy Little. You know, when I fish with Andy Little, it just took it to a new level. You know, I'd go fishing with Andy Little, I'd use a size 10 hook, he'd use a 12. I'd use dental floss, he'd split it in half. I'd use 8 pound line, he'd use 6 pound line. I'd catch 10, he'd catch 14. And he showed me, he took it, he said, no matter how good you think you are, there is something you can do that's better. You know, I watch Andy fish, and he would see a fish roll, and he would not take his eyes off the water. He would wind that rod in, he'd feel the hook, make sure it's sharp, recast, it would drop on the spot, and he'd catch a fish straight away. There was none of this winding in, putting a new string on, and thinking, where did that fish? Andy taught me more about lifting my game than anybody else, so he was the next inspiration. And there was Tim Paisley for the writing. Tim was the man that really taught me more about life, about going through the good days and the bad days, and, you know, never giving up and putting stuff behind myself. So again, he was a big hero of mine. And nowadays, you know, I mean, I'm influenced by everybody. Everybody I see fishing will influence me. But I think, you know, the three people that, you know, probably influenced me more were definitely Tim Paisley, definitely Andy Little, and definitely Kevin Maddox. Those three people were the people that I made myself. But I didn't want to be Kevin Maddox 2. I didn't want to be Andy Little 2. I want it to be Julian Cundiff 1. So when I see all these people trying to be Terry Earn or somebody else, I think, no, you don't want to be Terry Earn, you want to be yourself. You know, you don't know what Terry's gone through and goes through to be Terry Earn. And if they did, they wouldn't want to be Terry Earn, and they couldn't be Terry Earn. Always try and be the best that you can be, rather than a diluted version of somebody else. You know, I would like to think I am Julian Cundiff in my own right, not a diluted version of, oh, just like Terry or just like Kevin or he's a bit like Andy or whatever. I mean, Kevin Nash he's one of my heroes from the from the carp fishing past. And Kevin Nash really was the guy who got me my first consultancy. So when I was up and coming, Kevin was quite clever. He watched for people who were making a bit of a name for themselves, and he got me my first deal with Daiwa, which many years ago, probably the 80s. You'll remember the 8KN adverts, which was Nashy, Steve Alcott, Sean Harrison, and that was the 8KN adverts. And Kevin saw obviously I was doing various things, and he got me a deal with Daiwa, so he got me my first ever consultancy. Now I've been friends with Kevin ever since, so whether Kevin wanted me as a consultant, whether I wanted to be a consultant, I could always keep business and pleasure completely separate. So I've never had to fall out with Kevin or butter him up. Kevin is the same person to me, an iconic figure, as he was 30 years ago when I first started fishing. So I don't have to butter him up because I need another 500 off him, nor do I have to fall out with him because somebody's offered me more money. Kevin is an iconic, and the thing about Kevin, he's a carp fisherman first and he's a businessman second, whereas many of the people in the trade nowadays are businessmen first, carp fishing second. So when I caught that big fish, Kevin was more excited than me, and for him to share that moment with me, I just thought, I can't believe this. This is a guy I read in magazines about, and he's put his arm around me and saying, well done on that 49 pounder, Jules. And he was so made up for me, I'm thinking, I'm living the dream.
Julian,
a pleasure.
Absolutely loved every minute of it, and I hope you enjoy watching it as much as I've enjoyed talking to Julian and asking the questions. So from the Cudmore show here in Staffordshire, all the best and take care.
I hope my hair's not gone flat.